Hello and welcome to my channel When the Stars Aligned. My name is Kelly and this video is about Pluto lines and astrocartography. So if you don't know about astrocartography, it is locational astrology. It's understanding how different places on the planet will have a unique impact on you based on the coordinates of your natal chart and how that overlays on top of the map of the world. And I've been working with astrocartography for a few years now, and I've worked with probably 100 clients within this realm, and I wanted to make a Pluto line video because I am on my Pluto line currently. I had a session with someone the other day where we talked about Pluto lines, and I also have a friend that I worked with in an astrocartography session who went to a Pluto line, and I've been hearing a little bit about her journey. And also, Pluto lines are so misinterpreted and misunderstood and taboo. Such is the nature of Scorpio, such is the nature of Pluto. So I want to debunk and unpack that a little bit. As a Scorpio stellium, Plutonic energy is something that I'm very fascinated by and have spent a lot of hours and a lot of life learning, and it will be a forever journey, but here's what I've got. So I'm going to start with my personal experience with the Pluto line because I have been back on a Pluto line now for about 2 months. I lived on this line over a year ago. I was here for about a year. And it was a really intense, powerful, deconstructive, regenerative time of my life. And then I went and I left to a Mars line, and then life brought me back. I don't know if we ever go back, but it brought me here again. And in that process of leaving the Pluto line and coming back, I actually feel like I got to learn and assimilate and integrate a lot about what the nature of a Pluto line can hold. What I'm gonna say first is that it really depends on your unique chart. Right? Like for some people, the charts that I look at and work with, Pluto is a very powerful place for them to go. Maybe they have a really positive Pluto conjunction happening in their chart, or they're going through a really great Pluto transit where they want to be in that energy, or they have a lot of Scorpio placements in their chart. There can be a lot of raw power in this place, even if it's discomforting, and we'll talk about that. However, if someone has a negatively aspected Pluto, or they're going through a really rough Pluto transit, I probably wouldn't suggest to them to go to a Pluto line because it might just be unnecessary death and rebirth cycles. It might be unnecessary Plutonic kind of, backwards, taboo chaos. But if you're in the right kind of space for it, and the timing is good, and your chart supports that, and more than anything, you feel called to a place that has that line, I think there's really something to trust there. So first thing, chart awareness. And if you want support on this, I do offer immersive astrocartography sessions. I love doing these sessions, and they just keep getting deeper and better over the years. It's so exciting to see where I go with these people I meet with and where we go together and what comes up through the chart. And I am a big proponent for listening to your intuition. And I think that having one of these sessions, or any kind of astrology session, right? Like, my ethos is that I approach astrology both from a place of a recipient, but also a space holder, from a deep, embodied place of intuition. So, what does your gut say? Where is your gut calling you? Where is your gnosis calling you? Where is your heart calling you for travel, for an experience, for a retreat? Maybe you're relocating homes. Trust that. And then the astrology and astrocartography can bring a bird's eye view of the energetics at play, and also how to best meet it and work with it so that you're substantiated, you're supported, you're bolstered within that energy. So Pluto lines, let me share 3 takeaways of what I've learned from both being on, leaving, and coming back to a Pluto line. Embrace slow growth, right? Pluto energy can be so intense. Pluto is the more modern ruler of Scorpio. Some people would say Mars is the more ancient traditional ruler of Scorpio. But when we're talking about Pluto as a planet, we're going to work with Scorpio energy here. And it wants to decompose what is no longer true, right? Like Scorpio is the shadow hound for truth. It says, I will find my way through the shadows so that I can come back to truth. And when we're on a Pluto line, things are naturally going to feel a little bit more slow. And I think why it feels so slow is because it's so intense. And it's like, how could this be happening? Like, so much all at once, so much is happening in such a short amount of time, but it's a lot. And it's like, it's not transforming quick enough. And it's just kind of this Pluto time warp we can get in our minds. Like, Scorpio energy is very intense and very to the core. it's not always an instant shift. Like things have to decompose and break down. So patience, slow moving energy, embracing that kind of mindset with whatever you are grappling with in your life at the moment, if you're on a Pluto line or you're traveling to a Pluto line. And what I've actually found is that through having that disposition, that demeanor of embracing the cycle of decomposition, if you fully lean into that, things can move a bit more quickly. It's just that you're moving into it with a certain reverence for this is going to take as long as it takes. And then in that, there's like a deep faith and trust that allows things to decompose. Whereas if, on a Pluto line, things that are ready to, it sounds so dramatic, but things that are ready to die are going to be like, kind of like, made to die. And I'm not talking about physical death, not at all. Don't worry. Pluto is regenerative. It's the cycles of nature and life and how all death leads to new life. It's necessary death. And if we are fighting and resisting that, maybe it's a certain title we've been wearing, or a certain job status, or a certain relationship, or a certain patterning within our own psyche and habits we have, or a certain addiction, Pluto lines are really going to bring that to the surface. And if we are willing to understand that it's time for something to decompose and we give it up and we put it on the altar, right? We put it up for sacrifice, say, okay, I'm willing to let go of this and let this take however long it takes, then there can be like rapid transformation, but we're not quantifying it. It's trust fall. It's a trust fall. It's slower moving energy because it's decomposing. But when we really embrace something from that place of, okay, it's going to take as long as it takes, but how can I work with this energy? There can be like kind of quantum accelerations or quantum rebirths, but it's not something you have control over. Second thing I've learned with Pluto lines is devotion. A strong theme of devotion feels really essential on a Pluto line. It's linked to Scorpio. Scorpio it does roll over more of the mystical, shamanic, taboo realm, spirituality, the unconscious, psychology, and we all have skeletons in our closet, right? We all have things we struggle with. It's part of the human nature. No one is exempt from that. And I really believe that when we have a devotional practice, whether it's a prayer practice or whatever we connect to in the realm of spirituality, or spending time in nature, just present with the trees and the water, or giving thanks over our food, or picking up a yoga practice or a Kriya practice, or studying some kind of spiritual modality with devotion, I really feel it can lighten the blunt sting of a Pluto line that can come in, because Pluto wants us to be in a state of more reverence. It wants us to embody that kind of like Scorpio mystic wisdom. Now, I'm not saying you have to go and become a full-fledged, monk or something. A simple way you could weave it in is having a daily meditation practice. A powerful way that I weave it in is I go out and pray in nature every day. And I notice on the days, well, I do it every day. But if there is a day like I haven't done it, like it just feels heavier. I'm holding more. And it's because when we are in a state of prayer or devotion or reverence and whatever we want to pray to, doesn't have to be religion, we're opening our heart to be like supported, right, by something bigger than us. And it doesn't feel like we're carrying this weight all alone, because Pluto can feel heavy. It's like heavy and cold and like water, like you're underwater. So having a devotional practice brings it's kind of this like levity and this lightness and this support. So decomposing, devotion. And the third thing that I had to leave and come back to understand is shadow work and self-reflection. Pluto lines, I find, can bring up a lot. They can bring up a lot of challenges. They can bring up a lot of our own pain points. And depending on where Pluto is aspecting in your chart, right? Like for me, I have Pluto conjunct my Venus. So there are typically very strong themes around love and relationship and intimacy for me on my Pluto lines. And I think I have a few Pluto conjunctions. Pluto, my North Node, so also very linked to my work, and not just work in the sense of making money, but like capital W work. Like, what is my soul's calling, and like, what do I want to give with my life? That's very much so up for speculation and adjustment here. And when I was first on my Pluto line, it was a lot for me to take in. I remember just feeling like I was getting hit from every angle. I was like, wow. this relationship in my life and relationships and things coming in, like I feel so profoundly aware, and like it's like so beautifully intense, but also there's so much here. I just need like a breath to metabolize this. And if you also are someone who has Scorpio dominance in your chart, like I have 6 placements including North Node and Midheaven, sometimes I can bite off more than I'm ready to chew. And that's been a temperance lesson for me throughout my 20s, is pacing, slowing things down, slowing down the building of relationships, slowing down the building of friendships, even slowing down the building of anything, like pace, attunement, steadiness, and like let colors reveal, let things reveal. And shadow work is a very powerful tool to help us on that journey of pacing. And when I first, I'm not going to go into too specific details, big themes around my work, purpose, same bubble, and love and intimate partnership. And there was a lot coming in, and honestly it was kind of like a blessing. It was like, wow, I'm getting all this intensity and this beautiful energy, and I feel like I'm really being met where I want to be met. But what do I do with this? And there are these core things that aren't quite working, and I'm not sure how to metabolize it. And I had a little bit of a moment of like fried. I'm like, I need to tap out. So I did, and I left, and life brought me back here. And almost instantly, as soon as I was brought back here, I almost feel like there was something within the energetic of me being called and invited back here in a way that made it very easy for me to say yes. Was part of me getting that integration. There was a lot of integration and things that came together within my own psyche around my own patterning and wounds and gifts within intimate romantic partnership. A lot of healing there, a lot of integration there. A lot of integration and healing around what is it that I'm really in devotion to in this lifetime, not getting caught up on the lowercase w work, like what pays the bills and whatever, what's the status, but more so, what does my soul really want to be in devotion to in this lifetime? And it's not fully clear, right? Slow moving, but there have been these really core seeds that have dropped in, and this new faith and this new devotion. But it took a lot of shadow work and hindsight, and sometimes taking a step away. So those are my 3 points with some storytelling woven in. I tend to be long-winded, but I feel like I did okay. 13 minutes isn't too long. So decomposition, and it's going to take as long as it takes, number 1. 2, a devotion practice, and 3, the willingness for shadow work and self-reflection. And if that means you have to take a step away and come back, do that. Don't bite off more than you can chew. But if something feels really powerful, take it in, let it land, and meet it. So a tip I have for people when they are going to Pluto lines is to really trust your body. Pluto lines are very water dominant. Our bodies are 70% water, and your body will really be communicating to you strongly on a Pluto line, especially if you have a lot of water placements. And through what your body's telling you, you might know if it's like you need to take a step back and integrate what has been coming in, because there will be a lot of intensity, right, in whatever area of your life. And that's probably dependent on your natal chart, which sometimes is helpful to work with someone to understand, because it can be so complex. Listen to your body. Is it time to like take a step back and go into integration mode and digest what you've like bitten off? Even taking time away from the Pluto line if you're able to, and coming back. I know some people live on a Pluto line and they're very tethered there because they have home, family commitments, or there's an inability to move. But even like just getting in the car and driving a little bit, or somehow throughout your year planning a trip that's not just the next town over, but like a couple states over, it's something to help you get perspective. And I feel like that's something that can really serve Scorpio energy. Is Scorpio is like, sometimes I do it with my eye. I don't know. I have so much Scorpio. I'm not going to try to critique myself, but it's like a penetration, right? It's like a penetrative, it's a piercing, it's intensely present and observant. And when we're in that energy too long, we can get in patterns of hyperfixation, like becoming a little too attuned to the patterns. So getting a bird's eye view, leaving and coming back, or even embracing practices that help you get that bird's eye view. Something that I've learned to do that really helps me, even though it feels counterintuitive on a Pluto line, is like play. And the opposite side of Scorpio, the sign that's ruled by Pluto, is Taurus. So doing things that, you know, just feel really good in my body, and like celebrating my sensuality, and putting like lipstick on, or dressing up nice, like those things can really bring a levity to the intensity of the Scorpio energy. Not getting lost in kind of the hedonism and the pleasure, but bringing balance maybe if you're getting a little too, you know, if you're biting off more than you can chew. So those are some tips for Pluto lines. I hope it was helpful and insightful, or gave you something to chew on and integrate. If you're thinking of visiting a Pluto line, I highly recommend it, especially if you want some deep transformation and self-awareness and willingness to see your own wounds and patterns. There's been a lot of that too, but I wouldn't trade that, because there's been a lot, especially in this time coming back, that I've been able to grow and heal in myself, because I can see like past versions of Kelly and where she was like operating out of more of a wound or protection. And through the awareness that this kind of like intensity of a place brings, it encouraged me to like put some things on the, you know, the compost heap and let them dissolve. And you know, we're always learning and growing. I'm always going to be a work in progress. But I've definitely noticed that, and some big changes internally. So there we have it. Let me know anything you want to share in the comments. If you want to book a reading with me, I would love to work with you. I love doing this kind of work with people, and I hope to see you on another video. Okay.